The very first time I came here was in October 1991. I felt energized with such incredible energy from these amazing monuments that I'm surrounded by. I would love you to come and see them. But before we get the story started, let's take a step back to yesterday when we boarded Egypt Air's flight bound to Cairo. Shortly after arrival, we were on our way to the nation's capital, Cairo, a city of minarets, mosques and mystery. Where pyramids share tales of antiquity, Cairo is a city that never rests under the watchful eye of the ancient Sphinx on the Giza Plateau. The world's longest river, the Nile, always filled with traditional sailboats called feluccas, flows northward toward the Mediterranean. The Egyptian Museum contains the world's largest collection of pharaonic antiquities. Cairo has many faces, and in the Bazaar district with its twisting narrow streets, one sees her older visage, with merchandise vying for one's attention in every direction. Here is where East and West get together. Cairo pleases the palate from local cuisine to international fare. We arrived at our hotel, the luxurious 5-star Conrad Cairo overlooking the Nile. An award-winning property, Conrad Cairo offers premium rooms, elegant dining, luxury spa facilities and an international casino. It's there where we bathed in the majesty of our first Egyptian sunset. Hello, I'm Ken Vasquez, and you're watching the first episode of our 12-part series on travel to Africa on Africa Today TV. Now, just recently we traveled to Egypt in conjunction with the Egyptian Tourism Authority, Star Alliance member Egypt Air, and several strategic travel partners. Egypt Air is a dry airline, and this means they do not serve alcoholic beverages on board, but it's a kind airline, and that is a word I want you to keep in mind, kind, for when you visit Egypt, you must make sure and become involved with local people, because in doing so, you'll come to realize that Egyptians are a kind and caring people, and they will do everything in their power to help you and to make sure that your visit to their country is a great experience. Throughout the episode, we'll offer travel tips and suggestions on what to do and to see. Now, let's assume that your journey has started and you've arrived into Cairo International Airport, which is a one-roof airport with only one terminal, so it's easy to navigate. Here's where you have to have your passport ready for your visa. Now, most nationalities can get their visa on arrival, but you're cautioned to check with your local Egyptian consulate in your country prior to your departure as to what applies to you. The visa is not free of charge and the price fluctuates, so I recommend that you carry $100 cash with you per person in your party. Now, once you have your visa, collected your luggage, and you've passed through customs and immigration, you need to make your way to your Cairo hotel. If you're on an organized tour, it's typical that you will be met at the airport. If, on the other hand, you're traveling solo, you can take a taxi from the airport to your hotel. Just make sure it's a taxi with a meter to avoid any misunderstandings with the cost when you arrive at your hotel. If you have reserved your hotel directly, you might want to arrange for them to collect you at the airport so that you don't have to be concerned about your transfers at all. Now that we've cleared that up for you, let's return to our hotel and get the show started. Good morning again from another lovely day in Cairo. You know, the best thing to do to get your day started is to always have a terrific breakfast. So I have. Now, I'm going to show you the breakfast buffet here at the Conrad in just a moment. But what I've selected to get my day going and to get those sugar levels going is these amazing pastries. Wonderful, wonderful pastries. Of course, strong black coffee, just the way I like it. So honey and halva, pastries, coffee, and of course, good old orange juice. Bon appetit. I'm going to go and show you the buffet in a little while. But meanwhile, I eat. Breakfast is usually served buffet style like this. Fruit salad with muesli and an abundance of fresh fruits. Here's the honey on the comb and halva I told you about. There's a salad bar for a Mediterranean style breakfast. For better or for worse though, I always landed up right here at the pastry counter. And here, chef prepares eggs, pancakes, waffles, or whatever you desire to get your day going. So why don't we do just that and head off to the pyramids? Here we are. Everyone needs a friend to rely on from time to time. Unluckily though,
I'm being nice.
I chose this unfriendly fellow. Camel caravans outdate the memory of man in this land of sun and desert. Made me think how very lucky I was that this was not a long-term ride. It's amazing what a strange experience it is to get on and off a camel. After all, they're not the most graceful creatures on the planet. I'm about to take a trip inside the pyramid right into the depth of this amazing monument. While I do, you enjoy the surrounding scenery. This is what you see from the Giza Plateau. Or, if you're feeling adventurous, come along with me. But know right at the start that this is not an easy experience for the faint-hearted. The Great Pyramid of Giza is also known as the Pyramid of Khufu or Cheops. It's the largest and oldest on the plateau and is the last remaining structure of the classic Seven Wonders of the World. At 455 feet high, it consists of more than 2.3 million limestone blocks which were shipped from quarries all along the Nile. So here's something that I want to ask if you even realize. You know, you always see the pyramids, the Sphinx, and so on and so forth. But do you even realize the size of one of the blocks of granite that were used to build these incredible monuments? I stand 6 foot 1 inch from the tip of my toes to the top of my head. Now, look at me, standing against one of these blocks. There's all of the space above me still. Look at that, I'm stretching out my maximum. So this block is way bigger than 6 foot tall. Look at the width of it. I'm not going to go on my weight here because that's none of your business. It is a tragedy, but look at the size of this and then wonder, how on earth were these granite blocks ever carved, when they were, and how they were moved? Finally here on the Giza Plateau, and we're at one of my favorite spots in the whole world. I have stood at this spot many times in my life. There it is, the incredible Sphinx that guards the Giza Plateau. Enjoy that view. Cut from the bedrock, the original shape of the Sphinx has been restored with layers of blocks and measures 238 feet from paw to tail. It's the oldest monumental structure in Egypt, believed to have been built by the ancients of the Old Kingdom. Coming up next, we take you to the Egyptian Museum to see the treasures of King Tutankhamun and a night stroll through the bustling bazaar of Khalil Khalili. Those pyramids still leave me speechless after all of these years. Now, here's a tip. To get on a camel at the pyramids is free. To ride a camel at the pyramids is free. It's when the ride is over and you want to get off of the camel that problems may arise about payment issues. So I suggest that you negotiate the all-in price with the camel owner before you board his camel, because you don't want to be stuck on a camel in the noonday heat. Trust me. Today's trend in travel is about health and wellness, so make sure to make time for yourself. Select a hotel from our online portfolio, which you'll find at attvtravel.com, for they offer luxury services including spa and relaxation areas, all at great rates. Now, let's head off to the museum and the bazaar of Khalil Khalili. Now, like with every revolution, and particularly in modern times, there is a beginning point and an ending point, and here in Egypt, both of the recent revolutions started right here on Tahrir Square. You may remember all of those vivid images of millions of people here. Well, Tahrir Square is located right across the way from the Egyptian Museum, which is probably a building that holds most of the world's most precious antiques. Let's go inside and see what we can show you. Here we are in the Cairo Museum of Antiquities. It really is a wonderful place and worth your while. You should come while you're here. The Egyptian Museum in Cairo contains the world's most extensive collection of pharaonic antiquities. Designed in a neoclassical style, it boasts 107 halls filled with approximately 160,000 artifacts, covering 5,000 years of Egypt's past. The ground floor takes you on a chronological tour through the collections, while the objects on the upper floor are grouped per tomb or category. Exhibits there include wooden models of daily life, statuettes of divinities, and a rare group of portraits. And then, a sight sought by every visitor to Cairo, the treasures of the boy king, Tutankhamun. You can spend a full day at the Egyptian Museum, but remember, take some time off to relax. I returned to the Conrad Cairo to do just that, for I had planned to visit the winding streets of the Khalil Khalili Bazaar that evening. One of the latest trends in travel nowadays is health and wellness travel and slow travel. Now, this doesn't mean you have to eat lettuce leaves and sleep all day. Oh no, on the contrary. But what we do recommend is that you select a property like this one, which has got a fabulous pool. It's got relaxing areas that you'll see all around the pool area. It's green and tropical and lovely right here in the center of Cairo. Also, it's got a wonderful spa where you can take some exercise. There are secure locker facilities. You can enjoy a gentle massage, the dry sauna, or the steam room. Working on yourself is important, and we really suggest that you pick a property like this one, the Conrad here in downtown Cairo, to spend some time relaxing. There's a lot to see out there, but you've got to spend some time on you, and you can do it right here. Khalil Khalili is a major bazaar in the Islamic district of Cairo, where you're transported back in time to an old Arab souk. Cairo has many faces, and the bazaar district with its twisting narrow streets is a main attraction for tourists and Egyptians alike. Today the Khan is mainly occupied by Egyptian rather than foreign merchants and shopholders, but it remains significantly geared toward tourists. Imagine for a moment shop owners calling you to their stalls, the scent of spices, the hustle and bustle of trade, and the many beautiful objects for sale that will have you lost among the alleys for hours. With merchandise vying for your attention in every direction, you can put your haggling skills to the test when buying statuettes, spices, souvenirs, silver jewelry, t-shirts, gala beers, belly dancing costumes, or anything else for that matter. In this place where East and West get together, and where ancient and modern mingle and mix, don't miss out on a traditional cup of tea at the famous Fishawi's Cafe. This is my favorite spot in the souk, Bab al Guri, which happens to have been there from the beginning of time. Look at the light, look at the illumination. Isn't it gorgeous? Wherever you look, bold, beautiful colors. Make sure you gravitate toward this point when you visit Khalil Khalili. I really hope you'll come and visit. It's a gorgeous place to be, so come. Khalil Khalili Bazaar in Cairo, one of the sites you simply cannot afford to miss. Coming up next, we take you to the Mosque of Muhammad Ali, Coptic Cairo, and a site that you probably will never find on the tourist route. And later, the majestic temples of Abu Simbel in Nubia. I really love the buzz of Khalil Khalili Bazaar. It always thrills me and makes me want to shop. Now, most organized tours are structured with just one night in Cairo, but my personal recommendation is, quite honestly, you need much more than that. Some of the things you simply must see in Cairo are, of course, the pyramids and the Sphinx on the Giza Plateau. There's the museum, the Bazaar of Khalil Khalili, the step pyramid of King Zoser at Saqqara, and there's also the ancient city of Memphis. Also, for a little bit more of a modern touch in Cairo, what about the Mall of Arabia? It's really worth an experience and a visit if you'd like to do that. There's the Cairo Tower, and there's also the district of Zamalek, where you can lose yourself in a myriad of winding alleyways and streets. Further afield, for an oasis experience, you can visit El Fayoum. It's only 55 miles away from Cairo, but the experience itself is worlds apart. You can also do a full-day tour to enjoy the oasis, but frankly, it is preferable to do an overnight there. That way you can feel the true peace of waking in the early morning in an oasis environment. There's also the Citadel and the Mosque of Muhammad Ali, as well as Coptic Cairo, and that's exactly where we're heading to right now. We're standing in the courtyard, the entranceway of the Muhammad Ali Mosque. This mosque is often referred to as the Alabaster Mosque. The main praying hall is to my left. I want to explain the appropriate etiquette before entering a mosque to pray. You perform wudu or ablutions, commencing by saying Bismillah. Then you wash your hands 3 times up to and including the wrist. You rinse your mouth 3 times. Rinse inside your nostrils 3 times and wash your face 3 times. For men, that includes beards. You wash your arms 3 times, beginning with your right arm from your wrist up to and including your elbow. Wipe your hair with water. Wipe your ears with water 3 times, including the inside of your ears. Wash your feet, beginning with your right foot up to and including the ankles 3 times. After wudu, you say, I bear witness that none has the right to worship except Allah, and that Muhammad is his place and messenger. Women visitors should have all skin covered. Ankle-length skirts or pants are required. Sleeves too should reach each wrist, and the head should be covered by a headscarf. Pants or skirts that are too revealing or clingy or tight should not be worn. Now you are ready to enter the mosque to pray, so let's go into this exquisite building. Please come with me. Built between 1830 and 1848, The mosque is gigantic by Cairo's architectural standards. Its prominent location and profile of domes flanked by a pair of slender high minarets contribute to its prestige. The Egyptians themselves place a great deal of pride in this monument. The architecture of the mosque is entirely Ottoman, and the grandeur of the single large chamber is enhanced by a circle of small lamps hung in the middle of the praying area above the main dome. Other smaller lamps placed elsewhere create a spectacle of grand light. From the citadel, you're afforded a splendid view of Cairo. Founded in 969 AD, the city's metropolitan area, with a population of almost 15 million, is the largest in the Middle East and the Arab world. It is the 17th largest city in the world. Coptic Cairo was a stronghold for Christianity in Egypt until the Islamic era, though most of the buildings and the churches in Coptic Cairo were built after the Muslim conquest of Egypt. The Ben Ezra synagogue is situated in Coptic Cairo and, according to local folklore, was built on the site where the baby Moses was found in the bulrushes. When you come on a Coptic tour of Cairo, it's so important that you have somebody who is knowledgeable, like the lady who is with me today. She's pointed out something I never knew. We're about to enter a church, we'll show you inside, but the Holy Family, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, stayed beneath the level of this church at some point. We'll get some more history inside, but this is why a professional guide is to your advantage when you come to Egypt, and particularly in Cairo, because there's so much history. Let's go inside.
Let me show you where the Holy Family lived. Let's go together.
We can go down?
Yes, please.
Oh, wonderful, absolutely. It is said that this is the well from which the Holy Family drank, and here it is claimed that this is the original ground that Jesus Christ and the Holy Family walked upon. The Hanging Church is one of the oldest churches and the most famous Christian church in Cairo. Founded in the 3rd century AD, the church displays 110 icons, the oldest of which dates back to the 8th century. Over the altar screen lies a long row of 7 large icons, the central one of which is Christ sitting on the throne. On one side, the icons of the Virgin Mary, Archangel Gabriel and St. Peter are lined up, and on the other, St. John the Baptist, Archangel Michael, and St. Paul. I received a blessing from the parish priests. And now I want to take you to a place that no one talks much about. I'm in an area of Cairo where all of the garbage from the city is transported to. There's a mountain in Garbage City with carvings. But more importantly, in the mountain, there are caves. I am in one right now, and I want you to have a look at a Coptic church inside a cave, carved into the side of a mountain in Coptic Cairo. It is unbelievable that such a place exists. It's like an amphitheater. And if you have a look, you'll see there are friezes. There's an angel sitting on a rock, a round rock, that looks like the rock we anticipate in Christian religion to be the rock that was rolled in front of Jesus' tomb. Above it, in both English and in Arabic, is written, "He is not here. He has risen, just as he said." Down below me, there's a huge screen to project to all of the people that can sit in this enormous, enormous amphitheater. The altar is all the way down at the bottom. Above it, there's a carving of Jesus Christ crucified on the cross. There's more similarity between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam than any of us, choose to believe. And it's that very reason that I decided I wanted to come here and show you this place that exists. It's in a cave, it's in Cairo, it's in an area called Garbage City. Coming up next, we head south to the area called Upper Egypt, and in particular the city of Aswan. There are several ways to get from Cairo to Upper Egypt. You can travel by car, by overnight sleeper train, or you can fly Egypt Air Express. If you're taking a cruise on the Nile River between Aswan and Luxor or in the opposite direction, that will determine which city in Upper Egypt you should fly into. Now, we flew to Aswan, for it's the gateway city to Nubia, and as we hope you will, we took a side trip to Abu Simbel on the bank of Lake Nasser. If by now you're wondering when is the best time to travel to Egypt, I'd say anytime. Just know that October through March are significantly cooler months than April through September. June and July peak out as the hottest times to visit. The flight from Cairo to Aswan is just a little over an hour. If you're not on an organized tour which includes transfers, you are able to get a taxi right outside the airport arrivals hall. Now you see what life is like in a marketplace here in Aswan. If you look across the road, you will see we're going to the old bazaar of Aswan. Come along, let's go explore. Apart from wandering around the old bazaar Aswan, other sights to see on your visit should include the High Dam Aswan, one of Nubia's most important monument sites, the Temple of Philae, and the unfinished obelisk in the stone quarries. Even more typical is a cruise on a traditional sailing vessel called a felucca. Whenever you're in Aswan, the one single thing you must do is go with the flow. Here we are on a felucca, which is a traditional sailing vessel cruising along the Nile. You must do it. It's a wonderful experience. Go with the flow and relax. Feluccas dart back and forth on the Nile. On the west bank, you glide past the mausoleum of Aga Khan. It's a lovely way to spend an hour of your time. What always thrills me is passing this 19th century palace on the banks of the Nile. Now, it's the Old Cataract Hotel. Remember what I've been saying all along? In today's modern travel era, you have to take some slow time. You really do, you know? It's very, very hot here in Aswan. We hit over 45 degrees today, which means it's really scorching. So take time off. You don't have to see everything in 1 hour or in 1 day. Spend a little time. Focus on your health and your wellness, because after all, that's what it's all about. As the sun set, we took one last look at the old bazaar before taking an early night. For the next day, we had an early flight to Nubia and the temples of Abu Simbel. The Abu Simbel temples are two massive rock temples at a village in Nubia near the border with Sudan. They are situated on the western bank of Lake Nasser, southwest of Aswan. The twin temples were carved during the reign of Ramses II in the 13th century BC as a long-lasting monument to himself and his queen Nefertari. Their huge external rock figures have become iconic. What I like about this particular temple is wherever you look, there are these tiny chambers filled with hieroglyphics, and look all around you. It really is amazing, and one would have to wonder what the story is that's been told here. We'll discuss that with you, but I want you to come with me into one of these little rooms. They seem to be all over, and again, one would wonder, why would Ramses create all these little rooms? Come, I want to show you this. You see, here's yet another, filled with all of cartouche names, various symbols, just the whole story of hieroglyphics around you wherever you look. It really is remarkable, and the preservation of this particular temple is unlike anything that I've seen in Egypt. Take a look at this wall, reflecting animals, reflecting water, reflecting life and death, with so many reflections of things that took place in his lifetime, or a story that he was trying to leave behind. Ramses was indeed one of the greatest pharaohs of ancient Egypt. The temples were relocated to an artificial hill. The relocation was necessary to prevent them from being submerged during the creation of Lake Nasser, which formed after the building of the High Dam Aswan. One of the greatest things about this temple, the Temple of Abu Simbel, and Ramses in particular, is this. When Ramses had this temple designed in his name, he planned it that for 2 days in a calendar year, the sun would come streaming through the door at sunrise, and it would go all the way to the back of the temple, and it would be 2 days a year. One was his coronation day, the other was his birthday. Now, that was then. Fast forward to when UNESCO moved this monument to higher ground. With all of our modern technology that we have in today's world, when they moved the temple to higher ground, and they replaced it step by step by step by step, they missed it by 1 day. So no longer does the sun shine in on his coronation day and his birthday, but a day later. And it makes one wonder how sophisticated ancient Egyptians were in comparison to where we are today. Think about that. It's a great temple, isn't it? Look at the hieroglyphics, I told you. Enjoy it. Between 1964 and 1968, the original site was carefully cut into large blocks weighing up to 30 tons each, dismantled, lifted, and reassembled in the new location in one of the greatest challenges of archaeological engineering in history. Coming up next, we head north to Luxor, visiting the temples of Komombo and Edfu along the Nile. Nile cruises generally include stops at all of the temples and important sites along the way, no matter which direction you travel in. Let's head north from Aswan to Luxor. Once again, you can travel this leg of your journey by car, train, or Nile boat. Oh, and remember to keep yourself hydrated always. Bottled water is inexpensive and readily available wherever you are. You'll want to keep a bottle with you at all times, trust me. Oh, and yeah, don't forget to take sunscreen with you. There are several ways to travel from Aswan to Luxor. Some choose a Nile cruise, whilst others, like these lazy fellows, seemed to prefer traveling the 150-mile journey by road. Between the two cities, you stop and visit the temples of Komombo and Edfu. The Temple of Komombo is an unusual double temple. The building is unique because its double design meant that there were 2 courts, 2 halls, 2 sanctuaries, and rooms duplicated for 2 sets of guards. The southern half of the temple was dedicated to the crocodile god Sobek, god of fertility and creator of the world with Hathor, while the northern half was dedicated to the falcon god Horus. The temple is atypical because everything is perfectly symmetrical along the main axis. Building was started by Ptolemy VI between 180 and 145 BC. The scene on the inner face of the rear wall of the temple is of interest because it probably represents a set of surgical instruments. Now, one of the most identifying sights of the Temple of Komombo that will make you recognize it instantly wherever you see it in a photograph is if you look at the hyper-style hall, look at those columns. At the top of each column, there's a different carving, unlike those in Luxor, Karnak, and pretty much anywhere else you're going to see them. So if you see a still photograph and you're wondering which temple this is on the Nile, it's Kamombo, simply by looking at the top of the hyper-style hall columns, and there you will see a different carving at the top of each one. The road heads north from Kamombo to Edfu. The temple at Edfu is one of the best preserved shrines in Egypt. It was dedicated to the falcon god Horus and was built between 237 and 57 BC. The inscriptions on its walls provide important information on language, myth, and religion during the Greco-Roman period in ancient Egypt. The temple's inscribed building text provides text on its construction. You'll find important scenes and inscriptions of the sacred drama, which relates to the age-old conflict between Horus and Seth. Finally, we arrived into Luxor and one of my favorite hotels in the world, the Hilton Luxor Resort and Spa. It is simply the most perfect Egyptian vacation destination. The facilities are designed for comfort and convenience, and unquestionably, they deliver. From scrumptious morning breakfasts to sparkling pools, a magnificent spa, and stunning sunset over the West Bank, there is simply no other place like it in Upper Egypt. Today's modern trend in travel includes health and wellness, and it is absolutely apparent that the Hilton Luxor Resort and Spa was created with that trend in mind. The staff are immaculate in every way imaginable and only want to please every individual guest. In an unusual way, they make you feel as if you're coming home to a caring, loving family. I had such a wonderful suite at the hotel, a living room, off of which was a bedroom with a king-size bed perfectly made with Egyptian cotton linen, and a bathroom which featured every amenity imaginable. I bet you're wondering what's behind this door. Is it a closet? No. Come and take a look. It's a spa. My own private spa with a massage table, an indoor jacuzzi for one, a foot spa and a private steam room. Outdoors on my private patio, a full-size jacuzzi, the perfect place to sit and relax and reflect on the sights you've seen that day.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, no, we're kidding. Please, where I'm lying, I'm going to take a short break. No. I'm going to take a long break, and when I come back, I'll tell you more about the beauty and mystery of Egypt. So stay there. Don't go away.
Coming up next, we take a balloon flight over the Valley of the Kings and Queens, and we visit the temples of Luxor and Karnak. Luxor boasts the largest display of outdoors antiquities in the world. If you cruise in or out of Luxor, you'll have included excursions to the West Bank necropolis, but Luxor is much more than that. Consider an early morning balloon flight, high tea at the Winter Palace Hotel, and a stroll around the bazaar. You might consider slowing down the pace and adding an extra night to your stay in Luxor. After all, what's the rush? Remember the trend, health and wellness, and go for a spa treatment. If you're an avid golfer, you'll find wonderful courses along your journey. In Cairo, tee off at the Mina House Hotel golf course with its spectacular views. Down south, it's game on with several courses to select from.
Oh, that's an early morning coffee if ever there was one. It's about 4:30 here in Luxor, and we're going to take a trip now by boat across the Nile River to the West Bank. There is where I assume we're going to go to the balloon launching pad and watch the inflations of the balloons before we drift slowly over the Valley of the Kings. It's going to be a great morning. Do come and join us.
Our strategic travel partner in Luxor for balloon flights is Sinbad Balloons. They recommend that if you would like to make a stay in Luxor even more amazing, you should experience the joy of flight in one of their hot air balloons. And we agree. You'll enjoy an unbeatable view of Luxor and the Nile River from the air, away from the daytime crowds in the peaceful glow of dawn. Unlike me, don't forget to take your camera with you.
So that's it. I got the certificate, I got the experience. I will do it again, and you should too. Please take a flight like this. It's worth every penny of the experience. We'll see you a little later again in the day.
At the site of the ancient Egyptian city of Thebes, Luxor is fondly known as the world's greatest open-air museum. The ruins of the temple complexes of Karnak and Luxor stand within the modern city, and directly opposite lie the monuments, temples and tombs of the West Bank necropolis, which includes the Valley of the Kings and Queens. The Karnak temple complex comprises a vast mix of decayed temples, chapels, pylons and other buildings. Construction began in the reign of the Middle Kingdom through the Ptolemaic period. It was completed during the New Kingdom era. The area around Karnak was the ancient main palace of worship in the 18th dynasty, with the god Ammon at its head. One famous aspect of the Karnak temple is the hypostyle hall with 134 massive columns, all arranged in 16 rows. Luxor Temple, on the other hand, was constructed approximately in 1400 BC. Now, unlike the other temples in Thebes, this temple is not dedicated to a cult god. Rather, it's dedicated to the rejuvenation of kingship. It may have been where many of the kings of Egypt were crowned in reality or conceptually, as is in the case of Alexander the Great, who claimed that he was crowned at Luxor but may have never traveled south of Memphis, which is near Cairo. To the rear of the temple are chapels built by Amenhotep III and Alexander. Other parts of the temple were built by Tutankhamun and Ramses II. During the Roman era, the temple and its surroundings were a fortress for the government in the area. As daylight fades, Luxor Temple illuminates the way for you. Whatever you do, make sure that you do not miss the sound and light show at the Karnak Temple. Back at the hotel, Egyptian trance music duo Ali and Fila lit up the night with a party unlike anything that we had experienced in Egypt to date. So, we joined in. Coming up next, we visit the Temple of Hatshepsut, the Valley of the Kings, the Ramesseum and the Colossi of Memnon. Sightseeing on the West Bank generally takes place in the early morning hours due to the heat. Any arrangements you make on your own for travel in the region, make sure and check that the company you deal with provides fully qualified Egyptologists, for their wealth of knowledge can make or break your Egyptian experience.
Due to the incredible heat in the region, it is important to get an early start, which is what we did to get to the ancient funerary shrine, the mortuary temple of Hatshepsut. It's located beneath the cliffs at Deir al-Bahari. Hatshepsut was one of the most successful pharaohs that reigned over Egypt. She was the queen of Pharaoh Thutmose II. When he died, she passed the title to her nephew Thutmose III, who was a baby and next in line to the throne. That enabled her to dress like a king, even with a false beard, and began having herself dressed in a king's kilt and crown to assert her authority. She changed her titles to those of a pharaoh, eventually changing her name to the male name Hatshepsu. Under her reign, Egypt prospered, for unlike other rulers, she was more interested in ensuing prosperity and building and restoring monuments. The Valley of the Kings is where, for a period of nearly 500 years, tombs were constructed for the pharaohs and powerful nobles of the New Kingdom. It stands on the west bank of the Nile, opposite Thebes, which is modern-day Luxor. Within the heart of the necropolis, the wadi consists of the East and West Valley. The East Valley is known to contain 63 tombs and chambers, ranging from a simple pit to a complex tomb with over 120 chambers. It was the principal burial place of the major royal figures of the New Kingdom, as well as a number of privileged nobles. The royal tombs are decorated with scenes from Egyptian mythology and give clues to beliefs and funerary rituals of the period. Almost all the tombs have been opened and robbed of their antiquities, but they still give an idea of the opulence of the power of the pharaohs. In modern times, the valley has become famous for the discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun, and is one of the most famous archaeological sites in the world, becoming a World Heritage Site in 1979. Exploration, excavation and conservation continue in the valley today, and a new tourist center has recently been opened. Ramses II constructed many buildings from the ground up. The most splendid, in accordance with the New Kingdom burial places, would have been his memorial temple, the Ramesseum, a place to worship dedicated to Pharaoh, God on earth, where his memory would have been kept alive after his death. The colossi of Memnon are two massive stone structures of Amenhotep III. Since 1350 BC, they've stood in the necropolis. So you'll have come to realize by now that sightseeing in Upper Egypt must be done in the early morning hours to avoid the heat. By noon, you'll want to be back at your hotel or lazing around the pools, swimming, enjoying the spa facilities, or just relaxing and enjoying your afternoon, waiting for the sun to set into the desert over the Nile River. Coming up next, we'll return to Cairo, where we stay in a former palace at the foot of the pyramids on the Giza Plateau.
Now, since we came from the United States, the direct flights back to the US leave Cairo in the early morning. And so, unless you're traveling to a further destination or via a connection city like London or Paris or Amsterdam, you pretty much have to spend one last night in Cairo. Now, that's not all bad though, because you can use the time to enjoy the sound and light show at the pyramids. It is spectacular.
Back in the early 90s, when I visited Egypt for the first time, just as Tony Bennett left his heart in San Francisco, so too did I leave my heart at the Mina House Hotel, the closest hotel to the Grand Pyramids on the Giza Plateau. It will remain there, and I will always return. At about the same time, a young man named Tarek Lotfi, Egyptian by nativity, was visiting the pyramids and Sphinx with his family. He recalls pointing at the Mina House and vowed there and then that someday he would work at that place. As time passed, his dream came to fruition, and now he is the Director of Marketing Communications at the property. Wandering around the Mina House with Tarek is like taking a step back in time to the early 1900s. Tarek introduced me to this property that I love so much, but from an insider perspective one rarely is privileged to. Surrounded by 40 acres of verdant green gardens, this palatial hotel is located in the shadow of the Great Pyramids of Giza. Guest areas are embellished with exquisite furnishings, handcrafted furniture, magnificent antiques, and works of art from a bygone era which one rarely finds in today's modern hotels. The Mina House has played host to kings and emperors, heads of state and celebrities. Just 700 meters from the wonders of the ancient world, it offers unmatched views of the pyramids. You can gaze upon their magnificence from your rooms, from sunrise to sunset. Plush, elegant guest rooms enhance your stay, with facilities fit for even the most discerning traveler. Recreation options at the property include a heated swimming pool, a fully equipped spa and fitness center, and the most unique golf course in all of Egypt by virtue of its view. Regarded as one of the leading luxury hotels in Egypt, the Mina House combines the magical charm of a bygone era with an unrivaled service fit for royalty. Now you know why I always spent my last day in Cairo at the Mina House Hotel. Before we go, there's one more thing I want to share with you. Something that I feel sure will inspire you to strive to be your best. Described as Egypt's miracle, Al Nur Wal Amal is a 40-strong, all-female chamber orchestra. In perfect time and in perfect harmony, the only difference is that all of the members of this orchestra are completely blind, each one determined to prove that that's no handicap at all. To me, it showed a true testament to the strength and courage of the human spirit. Often referred to as a thing of light and hope, Cairo's Blind Women's Chamber Orchestra inspired me to heights I cannot fully express. Remember this when you plan your visit to Egypt. Get close to the people, for it's there where the true beauty lies. You see, Egypt is not just ancient monuments. In Egypt, some things you'll come across are absolutely monumental.
That's it. We're done with this episode. Wasn't the orchestra an amazing experience? It certainly was for me. What you have seen is a typical classical tour of Egypt, and now it's time to come home. But there is more. And so for those of you who want to extend your Egyptian experience, in our next episode we take you to the port city of Alexandria, to an oasis in the Sahara Desert, and then ocean diving in the Red Sea off of the tip of the Sinai Peninsula. So be sure to join us again on July the 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, visit us online at attvtravel.com. From there, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates in travel, and share us with your friends. This episode will be available on our YouTube channel shortly for you to enjoy at your leisure. Until next time then, thank you for watching and safe travels to you.